Good day, Canada. Good evening, Asia. It is Thursday, 12 p.m. in Toronto, and it's time for our regular webinar on immigration and visas to Canada. My name is Alex Davidson, and today the topic of our webinar is temporary visas to Canada. We'll provide general information about types of visas, requirements, application process, and more. This webinar is more educational than practical, so we'll be talking about general matters that would allow you to understand how TRV or temporary resident visa work and hopefully to avoid disappointment of refusals, denials, and other issues alike. So I believe that most of our listeners today know us very well, and I will not waste your time introducing our team or talking about licensed immigration practitioners. Just a couple of words. We all work with visas and immigration for many, many years. All of us are licensed and have serious experience with immigration cases. So let's go ahead straight to the topic. Temporary resident visas or temporary visas are not only for tourists or personal visits to friends or relatives. For millions and millions of newcomers, their immigration to Canada began with receiving temporary visas and coming to Canada for a temporary visit. Within the scope of our today's webinar, we'll talk about people who require a visa to enter Canada. Everything we will discuss today is not applicable to citizens of visa-exempt countries, of course. So, Temporary Visa to Canada, or TRV for short, is the document which allows its holder to cross the border and enter Canada for a limited period of time as a visitor. Canada has only one land border with just one country, the United States of America. Therefore, in most cases, a TRV is required to board the Canada-bound airplane. One won't be allowed to board without a visa. We're not talking about citizens of visa-exempt countries, as I promised today, right? So it's important to remember that a TRV is absolutely required to enter Canada, but it does not guarantee that the holder will be allowed to cross the border and visit the country. Temporary visas can be single or multiple entry, and that's quite self-explanatory. A single visa is void once a holder enters Canada, and the multiple entry visa is void on the day following its expiration day, allowing to enter Canada many times while it's valid. In other words, Tier V is necessary but not sufficient to come to Canada. There are many circumstances that can result in denied admission to Canada for a visa holder. Some most common examples of denied admission include inability to demonstrate sufficient funds to cover expenses while in Canada, controversial answers to questions asked at the border, etc., etc. So just to remember, if you have a Tier V, it does not automatically mean that you will be admitted to Canada. In very rare cases, visa holders are denied Canada. So Tier V is a mere authorization to enter Canada for a limited period of time, and not much more. As such, it does not allow to stay in Canada for as long as you wish, of course, to work, to study in Canada, with one certain exception we'll mention a little bit later, I mean the studies. It does not allow you to receive government-funded healthcare, welfare, or other form of social assistance. However, there are certain benefits that a Tier V offers to its holder. First of all, if you come to Canada with a temporary visa, you're automatically entitled to study in Canada if the education program of your choice does not exist 6 months. So yes, you can go, for example, to language courses with a duration of 2 or 4 months, with a 5 months. Everything lesser than 6 months is allowed. Also, for those seeking safe harbor for their financial assets, Tier V allows to open a bank account in a Canadian bank, including so-called Big Five banks, of course, RBC, TD Canada Trust, Scotiabank, Bank of Montreal, CIBC. As you all know, Canadian economy is very stable, and among the G7 countries, Canada suffered the least during the world crisis of 2008. That's why many people choose Canada as the country to keep and invest their money in. Moreover, a TRV holder can buy or establish a company in Canada, and despite the fact that a temporary visa to Canada does not allow you to work in here, it nevertheless does not prevent from owning a business, from owning real estate, for example, buying a house, investing in real estate, investing in purchasing Canada is absolutely allowed on the TRV temporary resident visa. Now, one common confusion about TRV is its validity period. Today, Canadian government often issues temporary visas valid for many years. It's up to 10 years, in fact. We often receive calls, unfortunately, from visitors in Canada finding themselves in a difficult situation, finally realize that they have stayed in the country way beyond the authorized period of stay, using TRV validity date as a reference. Indeed, when a visa holder sees that the visa is valid until, say, for example, December 20th of 2017, 2019, doesn't matter, he or she can believe that it allows him or her to stay in Canada until that very date. In this situation, a visitor often understands that he is staying in Canada illegally only by accident, talking to other people or dealing with government officials. Obviously, staying in Canada beyond the allowed period is illegal, even if a visa holder did not realize himself doing it. And the consequences can be very serious, of course, ranging from deportation to ban on entering Canada for several years. So, what does the visa validity date mean? It's simple. The visa holder may enter Canada, cross the border actually, right? While the visa is valid. In my recent example, if the visa is valid until, say, December 20th, 2019, it means that the visa holder is entitled to enter Canada not later than December 20th, 2019. It does not mean that he or she can stay, say, for example, enter today and stay for 4 or 5 years until that December 20th. It's very important to remember that visa validity date has nothing to do with the authorized period of stay in Canada. So how do you know how long you can stay and remain in Canada? Well, when an individual is entering Canada with his or her TRV in hand, the person has a brief conversation with a border officer. You know all those simple questions asked at every border when you travel around the world. What is the purpose of your visit? How long are you going to stay in Canada? Where are you going to live? And so on, right? So the officer is asking all these questions, and he or she is the one who determines until what date you will be allowed to stay in Canada. This officer will stamp your passport and write the exact date until which you're allowed to enjoy Canadian hospitality. It can be any date up to 6 months in the future, depending on your declared purpose of visit, the return tickets you have booked, and so on and so on. So, however, in many cases, you will see nothing but the border crossing stamp in your passport without any writings or handwritings in there. If no date is written beside the stamp, it simply means that you're allowed to stay in Canada legally for exactly 6 months. That's the longest period of stay on the temporary resident visa from the date shown on the passport stamp. Today is the 6th of August 2015, and if you cross the border today and you just got a stamp on it without any annotations, it means that you can stay for 6 months more, up to 6 months more from today's date. Pretty simple. So another common misconception is expressed by people asking questions like, is it easier to receive a tourist visa or a guest visa? Or is it easier to receive a business visa or tourist visa? Well, simply put, there is no such thing as a tourist visa, a guest visa, or a business visa. They're all the same, called a temporary resident visa. Everything else, desire to see relatives, to visit popular tourist destinations, or attend a business meeting, is those are just different reasons to receive a TRV to Canada. A businessman, a tourist, a relative, all of them would receive the same type of temporary visa, right? And that is done with a purpose, of course. That's done with the purpose because all those reasons for travel there are combined under one umbrella, if you put it this way, of temporary resident visa, because these type of visa would give you much more opportunities in Canada. As we said, you can study for up to 6 months, you can open business, you can buy business, you can invest in Canada, you can open the bank account, and so on and so on. So 3 key factors to receive a visa. That's the most interesting, I believe, and the most complex matter of our webinar today. So we'll touch it upon very briefly because in-depth understanding of the matter requires much more time than we have today. However, we'll of course be explaining some of these aspects in the upcoming webinars. So here's the 3 key factors considered by immigration officers when processing TRV applications. The 3 major questions to be thoroughly answered by every applicant in order to receive a TRV. First, the reason for a visit. Every applicant must clearly demonstrate why he or she is applying for a temporary visa to Canada. Second, of course, the financial aspect. No application will be approved if an applicant fails to prove that he or she has sufficient funds to cover all expenses incurred with the trip, including flights to and from Canada. And third, in fact, is the most important and tricky one, is the motivation to return. Since the very purpose of a TRV is to allow a person to visit Canada temporarily, it implies that an applicant must leave Canada soon after arrival. According to the Canadian immigration legislation, it is the responsibility of every applicant to convince the officer that he or she, an applicant I mean, will not stay beyond the authorized period. There is no such thing as a list of required documents to receive a visa. No. Similarly, there is no universal recipe how to convince the officer that you are going to leave Canada on time and will not remain here for good. This necessity of convincing the officer makes the entire application process unique for each applicant and sets price tag for services of licensed Canadian immigration firms with good reputation. Right? The fact that, for example, that's what we hear all the time. My uncle got visa 3 years ago simply declaring that he will see the Niagara Falls does not necessarily imply that you will get your visa if you got similar circumstances because every application is different. To apply for TRV, you may choose from 2 options, of course. Apply online or apply on paper. Several years ago, paper-based process was the only way to apply for a visa, but today most applications are filed electronically through the official website of the Citizenship and Immigration Canada. All documents and application forms are uploaded in electronic forms. You'll, by the way, need good quality scans of all supporting documents, including certified translations into English. That's mandatory. Processing fees are also paid online. The federal fee for TRV, temporary resident visa, for both single entry or multiple entry is 100 Canadian dollars. Upon approval of an application, the applicant is asked to submit his or her passport to receive a visa. This process is submission is usually facilitated by so-called visa application centers authorized by CIC to provide visa courier services for a small surcharge. As in many immigration or visa cases, every temporary resident visa applicant is entitled to submit the application through the legal representative. Canadian immigration legislation clearly states that a representative must be properly authorized in Canada for the application to be legal. We already explained in one of our webinars what consequences can result from using survey authorized representatives. Always double-check if your representative is licensed in Canada to provide immigration and visa services before signing a contract and making any payments. Make sure that your representative is a member of good standing in Canada of one of the licensing organizations, that he or she can legally represent your interests. Otherwise, you may face pretty bad consequences, including being banned from entering Canada for a few years. There are, I believe, certain benefits of having a professional immigration firm to handle your temporary resident application. Professional service is, of course, one of them. Besides, you must have heard that online applications filed by the licensed immigration practitioners are submitted not through the same CIC system used by unrepresented applicants. Instead, there is a dedicated CIC portal for immigration practitioners that allows for more flexibility in terms of uploading specific supporting document. And generally, of course, statistically based, it has less processing times. So what we do on this portal, we could submit the additional documents, we could explain more properly to the officers what is the purpose of your visit, which documents we would like specifically put additional emphasis on to show that and prove that the applicant would have solid reasons for return to the home country. In previous webinars, we also spoke about refusal management. Since no one can guarantee approval of an application, you cannot rule out a refusal as a possible outcome of your case. In this scenario, professional refusal management by a qualified specialist in many cases can help you to receive a visa ultimately. It's estimated that about 2 billion people worldwide are willing to live in Canada. That was the statistical research, by the way. This huge number creates tremendous demand on the market of immigration and visa services, which in turn results in numerous unscrupulous and fraudulent quote-to-quote visa firms, quote-to-quote guaranteed visa services, and so on and so on. You know it better, right? Here we have two images. On the left is a genuine Canadian visa. The image on the right was provided by a client from Bangladesh. He was issued quote-to-quote this visa for $200 on the same day he quote-to-quote applied. Obviously, this visa is 100% fake. It's work permit. It says the visa office is Accra, which has nothing to do with the Bangladesh, right? But still, this was the actual quote-to-quote visa which the person has received. Needless to say that a holder of such visa or of such a paper just wasted his money, and he had to replace the spoiled travel passport. And in the worst scenario, if he actually had managed to board the flight to Canada, he will be facing a ban of entering Canada for several years. Please find a few minutes to review our previous webinar on immigration fraud and actually on how to avoid it, how to check the credentials of your immigration representatives. Now, this picture is one of my favorite ones. This is, by the way, a picture of an actual market in Nigeria, in Africa, where those crooks were selling visas to Canada right at the street, together with, I don't know, what is that, potatoes, clothes, underpants. There are many, many so-called agents who defraud applicants every day. Please stay alert and stay aware. It's better to ask us first and check credentials than being absolutely sorry. And use the common sense, of course, right? No one sells Canadian visas at the street. As I have said in the beginning, it's hard to cover every aspect of temporary resident visas in our webinar, just one webinar. So this one was an overview, and in the following weeks, we'll look deeper into this topic. For now, if you would like to ask anything about immigration programs, about your application, how you may apply for the visa to Canada, you may either contact us directly or come to our friends and colleagues from Visa Center in Bangladesh. With their support and their professionalism, we work every day to make immigration environments safer, more transparent, and free of fraud for applicants. Please feel absolutely free to come and speak with them and with us. We also have a YouTube channel where you may watch all of our recordings and our programs where we cover various immigration and visa topics. Please use this resource. It's absolutely free, it's open to everyone, and there are lots and lots of programs active, up to date, described step by step on how you could apply and which programs might work for you. Please give us your like on Facebook, +1 on Google+, share our presentation. It's important for me, it's important for my team, it's important for Bangladesh team equally. In fact, it's important for all of us. The more people will know about legal immigration ways, the lesser chance there will be for fraud and for cheating. Thank you all for joining me today. From the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate you coming in and listening. And next time we'll continue discussing temporary visas. And our topic will be motivation for return as a key factor for receiving a temporary resident visa to Canada. On this point, I really appreciate you all coming in. Thank you, stay tuned, and goodbye.